All right, we are live. We are wrapping up the evening with our final report, which is our Florida East Coast Central report with Captain Jamie Thrappas, who is a native of
Maryland,
Dundalk, Maryland. He's a Dundalker. I want to ask him if that's how you say it, Dundalker, if I can remember after these amazing announcements. First off, we have our prize for, actually, you know what? I'm going to hold on the prize for the night to wait till everyone comes in and gets their popcorn and gets seated. So first thing is we have a new sponsor on the show. We are sticking with our support local here in the Delmarva region, and we are adding Old School Tackle Company to our list of sponsors. Yay! We're really psyched, man. Brian Dolph runs a great company, fantastic baits. They are 100% family owned and operated. Every lure, every soft plastic, homegrown right here in the state of Maryland. They support local causes, local and national causes, like Heroes on the Water. TFC is a big supporter of Heroes on the Water as well. And they have a great slogan that says, if you're not fishing old school, you're not fishing. So great stuff. We're excited to bring them on. Old School Tackle Company baits will be available as prizes for Question of the Night going forward. Other updates. Oh, if you haven't already signed up for TFC Plus, we've got a lot of great members that are, I think, already commenting tonight. That are TFC Plus members, but the TFC Plus subscription is a $5 a month subscription. It comes with a ton of additional content from all of our correspondents, stuff that will make you a better angler. No question about it. I've already become a better angler by, just watching the content that has been submitted by all of our amazing correspondents. So it's, Walleye Pete. It's all of our, we have, stuff there from Captain Eloy down in Cape Coral. We have stuff from Captain Massa in Georgia. We have things from Tom Weaver. We have things from CL Marshall. This content is growing every single day, and it's only getting better. The last thing, in this season of giving, guys, we have dedicated ourselves to supporting the Draheim family. Lakeland Draheim is a young lady, not much younger than my 7-year-old daughter, who has an aggressive form of brain cancer known as DIPG. So if you can find it in your heart to take a little bit of that extra holiday money and send it towards the Draheims, that's a family that could really use it right now. We had the opportunity to meet Lakeland earlier this year at the Tangier Classic. Met her entire family, and it's an amazing, amazing family that could really, really, really use your help. So, I'm asking you personally, if you have a couple of, extra dollars that are burning a hole in your pocket, please visit the GoFundMe page. It's Lakeland Strong Defeating DIPG on Facebook to give to their GoFundMe help to fight her cancer. You couldn't put money into a better thing. Without further ado, however, let's bring in Captain Jamie. What's going on, brother?
Not too much, man. How y'all doing this evening? Good?
Doing well. Is it a Dundalker?
Dundalkian.
A Dundalkian. That's a mouthful, man.
It is.
Well, I mean, we've almost got you back in the swing of things now, man. You're well back from the honeymoon. You got a new truck yet?
I did yesterday.
So he's newly married, new truck, new boat too, right?
Yes, sir.
For the next report, you got to send me a picture of that boat. That's what Lady C was saying when I shared that you sent some pics for tonight's show. She was like, "I want to see the new boat," and I'm like, "I think it's a little late for that." But
The new boat's in the shop. I'm having it like it's a used boat that I bought, but exactly what I needed. So I gave it to a friend of mine that he's doing a full rewire and adding double power poles, new iPilot, all electronics, C deck, that good stuff.
what kind of boat is it?
It's a flats boat, a Scout Costa. So it's
Oh, those are nice.
yeah, it'll allow me to fish some of the shallower waters this time of the year, especially when you're after redfish. They tend to go up in the flats and during the day, so they can sun and stuff like that, and they get a little bit more aggressive feeding this time of the year in the shallower water. Like the shallow water warm up faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, and as a captain, I'm sure you appreciate that protection you get from the mangroves and from the wind, right?
Correct. And you know, east coast of Florida is somewhat similar to like the central east coast, or where you guys are located. We get a lot of northeast wind, and you just kind of want to be able to find somewhere to hide from that wind, and that's the best bet if you want to fit. I could fish almost every day in the winter, other than like a really rainy day, by going back in those flats.
Man, I'll never forget. Maybe you can shed some light on this, or maybe not. But we were in Jupiter last year, and which isn't too far away from where you are. How far is Jupiter? A couple hours?
About 2 hours. Yep.
Okay. Uh, and I would get on the wind finder app, and it would say 18 miles an hour, and I was like, "Well, we can't fish today." And then I would message somebody that was helping me. I think it was a guy at a tackle shop that was giving us some information. And he was like, "No, man, it'll be fine." I'm like, 18 miles an hour in the Chesapeake Bay is like a no send.
Mm-mm.
Absolutely not. Go home. Don't even come out. Don't even fill your boat up with gas. But like 18 miles an hour there wasn't that bad, at least back in there in the canals.
Correct. Yeah. No. Again, the offshore fishery here in Central Florida, it'll get shut down. You might get like 2 or 3 days, a month. Sometimes, if you're lucky, a few more, but that you can get out there. But the inshore fishery, unless it's 40, 50-degree day with torrential rain, I can fish just about every single day.
So that really opens things up for you as a captain, right?
Correct. Yep.
Well, we haven't really dove into the fishing report. Tell us what's going on down there right now.
Uh, Transitioning obviously from fall to winter. All fall we're focused on snook or the big redfish. They're still around. They're just not as schooled up as they were say a couple weeks ago. Right now, most of us are focusing on like the sheep's head bite. Um, Sheep's head are excellent eating fish. They're kind of a underrated table fare. Yep, there's one right there. Um, they kind of come in off of the reef this time of the year to spawn. They'll spawn more in the spring, but they're all coming in off the reef, the larger fish. But spend a lot of time focused on them. They love structure, whether it's rocks or if it's docks or a bridge. You fish with them with uh, you can use artificial, but mostly you're using like fiddler crabs or sand fleas or shrimp, and just focusing on that structure. They're a hard fish to catch, but once you figure it out, you can do real well with them. Their bite is extremely light, but their mouth is really hard. I didn't have a picture of their teeth to send you, but they have almost human-like teeth.
I was
And
gonna ask. I was like, what? I want a picture of one of their mouths because they've got some weird looking mouths.
yeah, they do. I mean, it's almost like some of these fish had braces or something, but they have like their teeth in the front, and then that look like human teeth, and then like almost like molars, like a row of molars on the top and the bottom. And you really got to jam that hook in between those teeth into that gum to keep them on the hook. Otherwise, we call them bait bandits. or convicts, because their black and white stripes looks like they're wearing a prison uniform. And if you don't know what you're doing, they will steal all of your bait. But again, if you get the knack of it, I can teach my customers how to feel that bite. The biggest ones bite the lightest too. It's the weirdest thing, but you feel that little bit of a bite, that fish has got it in his mouth. You got to like jab that hook into his teeth really, really quick. I have some baits here. I'll show you in a minute, or not baits, but jig heads. And on the jig heads, they say chipping teeth and ripping lips.
Well, I kind of want to nerd out on sheep's head tonight, and you talked about how difficult they are to catch. Let's get really into the micro about how you would help somebody catch a sheep's head on your boat.
All right, so again, you want to be really close to structure. Rocks, they love rocks. They're eating barnacles. They're eating crabs. They crush oysters. They can crush barnacles with their mouth. So you don't necessarily want to be on the bottom. You want your jig head or your however you're rigging. You can do like a fish finder rig or a Carolina rig, but with a really short leader, and you want to dangle it right above that structure. Hit the structure just off of it, or right along a pier piling, or right along a bridge, and you just kind of lift that bait up and down. You're not necessarily jigging for them. You're just trying to figure out where they are on that piling or that bridge or that rock, and they're going to be sideways or upside down eating, and they'll smell your bait and they'll come over and they'll grab it. Um, Probably my biggest technique trick that I figured out, because they love crustaceans. So like a fiddler crab. Do you guys know what a fiddler crab is?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So a small fiddler crab or a sand flea that you would catch on the at the beach or on the shoreline with a rake, they love those things. They're like candy to them, but they can get them off
Actually,
really easy.
let's rewind for a second, because I know what a fiddler crab is, but
Okay.
I don't know if our audience knows what a fiddler crab is.
I don't know how to explain it without showing you one, and I unfortunately don't have a picture.
Don't they
But
have the one big claw?
correct. Yep, they'll have one big claw. Well, I believe it's the males have the big claw, and the females will actually just have two smaller claws. They look like a
Okay.
spider. They almost look like a
Yeah,
spider, right?
yeah.
But they can get those off of the. If you don't put those on the hook right, you'll pop their top shell off, and then they'll almost fall right off of the hook. You kind of have to hold the top shell on and pierce that top shell with the hook, so the crab is still connected as one, and then there's your bait, right? On your jig. I prefer to use jig heads, right? So I'll use my jig head. I'll get that crab on there, and sometimes I'll put two of them on there if they're small, and I'll kind of dangle my crab by that structure, whatever it may be, and I'll feel that light bite. As soon as I feel that lightest bite, I will not rip their head off like I'm bass fishing, but I'll do a real quick short jab to jam that hook into their mouth. Um. Anyway, one of the biggest tricks that I'll share with everybody that I figured out is there's a synthetic bait. It's called fish bites. I don't know if
Mhm.
you all have ever heard of this or not.
I have heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, it's really big in Florida. The surf fishing community uses it. Some people will use it just by itself, which I've caught fish with it by itself. But it's kind of like it's like almost like Play-Doh or something, but a little bit more durable, and it's got a mesh netting in between it. It's like sandwiched in a mesh netting, and it comes in a strip, if you can see that. So
That mesh keeps it on your hook, I guess, right?
it does. So what I'll do with this is I'll use a small piece, maybe half the size of a penny. I'll cut that off and I'll put that on, and then I'll put the fiddler crab or the sand flea or a half of a fresh dead shrimp on there. And what will happen is that sheep's head, if I miss him or he gets that bait off and I don't realize it, it takes him more tries to get that fish bites off. So you'll get more
Ah,
bite. You'll get more bites that way, and more opportunities to catch that one fish who keeps robbing you. Um, and since I've started using that, probably in the last 3-4 years, I've certainly caught more than I've ever caught. And again, they're extremely good table fare. Real mild whitefish, almost tastes like a snapper.
yeah. It's definitely on my bucket list of fish to catch. I actually have never caught one. Um, I haven't fished a lot of waters that would have them, but wait, actually, did I catch one down in Florida? Maybe a little one. I don't think I did.
No.
No. anyways, I forgot earlier. We have the prize of the night for prize for the question of the night. It's a pack of these 5/8 ounce jig heads from GI Jigs. It's like a key lime color with those very pronounced GI Jig eyes in them, and we have a second surprise prize that'll go with that. So you'll get like a mystery prize thrown in with that for question of the night. And we do have some questions coming in from our man Carl, who asked, Jamie, how do you target redfish this time of year?
So the redfish will be in the mornings and the afternoon, late evenings. They'll kind of go down in the deeper holes that hold temperature. With our cooling, because we'll have a pretty drastic temperature swing. It'll be 75 during the day and 42 to 38, 39 at night. So they'll go somewhere where they're comfortable early mornings, late evening. But as the sun rises, these fish will push into flat shoals. We just call them flats. And they'll kind of go in there and they'll sun that water. Since it's shallower, it warms up faster. This gets them more active and they tend to school up. So we'll do a lot of sight fishing for the redfish. We look for them with their tails sticking out of the water while they got their nose down. And we're talking like 8, 10, 12 inches of water, maybe
Wow.
even less sometimes. So you'll be looking for
Oh,
these redfish,
right?
tailing redfish up, the chasing tail, right? But another way to target them is if the water is to say a little bit deeper, like 10, 12 inches, you'll actually see them pushing water. So it almost looks like a submarine barely under the water. And it's hard to sometimes tell the difference between bait fish like schools of mullet or redfish. Like I'll be pointing it out to customers. I'm like, there's a school of redfish right there pushing water. And they're like, where? I'm like, right there. But it's something that you kind of have to train your eye to look for. But we'll use soft plastics, paddle tails mostly, or jerk baits, and just kind of time it to cast out ahead of these schools of fish and work your bait right in front of them, hit them on the nose, and they'll eat it.
Carl's asking also, what's your favorite lure or bait to throw? I'm guessing he's talking about for red drum.
I mean, I like DOA, the Cal shads. They're very durable bait. They're not a Senate bait though, so you have to have a super accurate cast to kind of present that to the fish properly. But they swim really well. They stay on the hook really well, and if you can use it and catch multiple fish. Probably one of my favorites though is Gulp. Gulp's a scented soft plastic. So if you're using a soft plastic that's not scented and you're getting a lot of looks where fish will turn and kind of chase it but won't hit it, they'll almost nose it with their nose and turn off of it. I'll switch over to Gulp. The problem with the Gulps are they're nowhere near as durable, so you might get 1 or 2 baits per fit, or fish per baits, and then you got to swap it out. But they work wonders, man.
Yeah, with those sheep's head, I'm sure they just chomp them in and hang
Yeah,
up real quick.
I actually I have one right here that I use quite often. So here's the Gulp. You
Yeah.
can see that. And then this is like the paddle tail shad with a white and a chartreuse. I'll use this in a darker water setting, and so the fish will see it a little bit better. And then I'll use these ones are a smaller version. Here's some more Gulp, and these are the swimming mullet. They have more of a curly tail on the back of them, gives them a little bit more action. And this is a darker one that I would use more if the water was super clear that day.
And let me tell you guys that those got them Gulp. Sorry, those Gulp have a expiration date on them, and you better believe it, they expire. I had a pack sitting just like he did, one of those containers with that fluid, and I just went to it like 3 or 4 years later, and I honestly thought I was going to die when I smelled it, how bad it was. They
That means you're
expired.
not fishing. That means you're not fishing with them enough, man.
I just don't fish with Gulp much. I mean, up here, you're from this area. Like, how often did you fish a Gulp shrimp on the Chesapeake Bay?
Really? I guess you're right. Not often. No.
Yeah, it's just there's regional things that are just like, some things happen. You know what? I'll bet you if you put a Gulp shrimp under a popping cork and threw it around Crisfield or Janes Island, you'd probably tear up the trout. I'm sure
Yeah.
you would.
There's
Um,
also another brand of baits that we use down here, and it probably hasn't made it that far north yet, but they almost have like a cult like following. They're called NLBN, which is no live bait needed. And these guys who fish these baits don't use any live bait. And it's for snook, for redfish, for trout. They just perform the way they swim. It's like so natural, but it's an artificial bait. So I mean, there's a ton of them out there. Small brands, large brands, but nonetheless, a paddle tail or a curly tail or a jerk bait, which is I think they use them a lot in bass fishing, but it's just kind of got a straight tail on it, and you just kind of pop it. Either way, you just got to be able to figure out where the fish are, moving those redfish, and get it in front of them and cross their path.
Good stuff. I have another question. Do we have another question? Short Sharp, he already asked it. Oh, no, he hasn't. Short Sharp asks, have you tried bottom sweeper jigs for sheep heads? They really work well, in my opinion.
Yeah, they do. They work excellent. As a matter of fact, the jigs that I use are pretty similar to bottom sweepers. They're called bridge donkeys. Guys up north also use them for tog. But I'll show you the hot pink one because it's a little bit brighter. But they're just a heavier jig head that almost sit flat on the bottom on this back head part if you're trying to get it to the bottom. But they're real stout hook, super sharp hook, very similar to the bottom sweeper, and yeah, they work excellent. I was actually sold out of them. I wanted to bring some home and show them to you. I have another one. These guys are made by the Fishing and Hunting Depot, which is a company here in Florida, but
Yeah.
they have a sheep's head Pacific jig. It's very similar to the bottom sweeper, but the hook is actually on like an eye, so the hook itself will rotate around on that jig head, and so when that sheep's head grabs it, the whole jig head and the hook isn't stiff, so he doesn't
Oh,
let
so
go of it.
they're less likely
So
to feel it. That's really cool.
correct,
So
yeah.
the sweeper jig looks a lot to me like what do they call it? Slammer jig, which people use for snapper. Are you familiar with those jigs?
I am.
It looks like it just has a larger piece of lead on it.
Yeah.
Um,
You know, the sheep's head with their mouth being, it's not a, they're not a large fish. An average fish is going to be a 2 pounder, 3 pounder. A good fish is going to be 5, 6 pounder. I've caught them, pushing 10, 11, 12 pounds. I mean, I've even been, there's actually a sheep's head toward me here in Florida called El Cheapo that I thought for sure I was winning one time. I had a 12 pound, 6 ounce fish, and it's out of Jacksonville. There's no boundaries. I drove up to weigh my fish in, and the guy in front of me, I was like, "Did you get anything good?" And he opened his cooler up. He didn't have one fish in there under 13 pounds. I couldn't believe it. I don't know what he was doing that I wasn't, but he had some hosses in there, man.
I
And
can't believe you lost with a 12. Lady C caught one. We'll send you the picture or show it next month. She caught one down in Cape Charles. I mean, that thing was, you talk about like a doormat flounder. I mean,
yeah,
it was huge.
yeah.
She didn't get a weight on it, but that thing was enormous.
Did she eat it?
No, because she didn't have a cooler with her, and that was like that's I think about 4.5 hours from where we live.
Yeah.
But got a question coming in from Henry Vine Fishing. He says, which species is the most sought after in your area? And we've got just a couple more minutes. So guys, if you got questions, bring them in.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. That's a tough question because everybody's got those fish that they like to target. Redfish is certainly probably the most generally sought after fish, but the guys that are really like want to be off the beaten path, it's going to be snook and tarpon. Snook probably takes the cake there, but snook are hard to catch, so that's why there's such a draw to try and figure out how to catch those fish. They're super smart fish. They're leader sensitive, and they only eat certain times of the day. They're very tidal driven. So
Yeah,
I certainly say snook.
their IQ does drop a lot at night, though.
It it does. It does. If you
They're a lot easier to catch.
They are a lot easier to catch, but just day before yesterday, a young man came into the shop after fishing all day, and he told me he lost count at 40 on snook on how many he caught that day.
40.
40. He lost count. He stopped counting at 40.
Wow. That's impressive. Carl has another question. He says, "How do you target the snook?" Well, we're right on that target on that topic.
The snook, you can target them with artificial or live bait. Again, they're super leader sensitive, so you got to figure out what's the maximum fluorocarbon leader that you can use and get away with without them breaking you off, and that's dictated by your fishing in open water, which you're normally not because they like structure as well. So, and the other thing too is eliminating anything that they're going to see. So if you can tie your fluorocarbon leader to your braid, tie a line to line knot. There's a variety of different knots that we use. I use a uni to a uni a lot of times because you get a good one on, you need a good knot tied. The last thing you want is to get a good fish on your knot pools. But you got to eliminate swivels, and you got to know where those fish are sitting and present, whether it's your artificial or your live bait, without it. You almost have to like make them mad and make them eat that thing because they're smart. They don't like something's not right. I'm not going to eat it. I'm not going to eat it. And finally, enough times that you put it in front of them, they're like, "What is that?" Boom, and they eat it. So
yeah. One additional tip I'll add on there, and you're absolutely right. We found the most success when using like 10 or 12 pound fluorocarbon leader, and the good stuff. They're not all leaders created equally. Like some is just, you can have 10-pound that is not all, that shows up pretty terribly in the water. But the other thing is snook have a lot of rough ridges in their mouth, and you got to check that leader frequently because if you catch 2 or 3 snook, your leader's probably going to be frayed really bad, and the next one will break you off.
And when it frays, then it's not transparent anymore too. So you gotta switch it out. I mean, I'll use 6-8 feet of leader sometimes if they're really being, and I'll go. I usually try to stick to 20-pound because if you get a good 40-inch fish on, he's gonna probably get off with that 40-pound. I'm sorry, with that 20-pound. But if I'm seeing them and they're not eating, I'll drop down to 15.
Yeah. Well, we've had some amazing questions of the night. Had a very active audience, but we'll do a drum roll and see if Captain Jamie can recall the question of the night for the GI jigs and the mystery prize that we haven't located yet.
Do you want me to recall the question of the night?
Yeah, what's the question of the night for you, bro?
It would either. Oh, jeez. I would probably say, how do you target redfish at this time of the year?
How do you target? Carl? Did Carl win again?
Yes.
Yes, Carl won twice tonight. after a cold streak, Carl, you're back hot again. I was noting on the last show, when Carl first started following our channel, he won like 8 weeks in a row, and then he's had a cold streak, and now apparently he's heating up again. So, Carl, we will send you your prize. We already have your address. Makes it easy for us. Captain Jamie, always a pleasure. So glad that you're back in the saddle again, that you guys weathered that storm. Oh, and the hat, we got like, we're 1 minute over, but we don't have anybody after you. Tell me about your hat, and then how people get in touch with you to book a charter.
So we sell the hats in our bait shop, the Yellow Dog Bait and Tackle. It's in Ormond by the Sea, Florida. We have shirts and apparel in there also. The best way to get in touch with me is either reaching out via phone or text. Text is most likely the best way because I'm mostly out on the water or with a client. Phone number is 386-366-3424. The website is yellowdogfishing.com, and the email is yellowdogfishing@gmail.com.
So you guys have all that information down on the bottom of the screen. If you're in the Florida East Coast, Daytona Beach area, go catch a bunch of fish with Jamie. He's set up to hook you up, both inshore and offshore, depending on the season. So yeah, go catch a bunch of fish with Jamie. Any last words for us, Captain?
Not at all, man. I know it's chilly up there, but there's still some fish to be caught. So yeah, everybody listening, if you're in the Northeast, go catch some fish. And
Yeah, we're gonna go get on them day after tomorrow. You know, we haven't really slowed down. You know, winterizing is whimperizing. We don't. I don't winterize. I do too much fishing. Usually we head south at least once during the year. I don't think we're gonna make it quite as far down as where you are this year, but we're gonna head down to the Carolinas at least once.
it's a great time to come on down here and warm up. My brother actually sent me a picture of his boat being shrunk wrapped the other day up there, Middle River, and I said, "Sucks to be you, man."
Tell him he's whimperizing his boat.
Exactly. All right, man.
All right, brother. We'll see you next month, and thanks so much.
You got it, buddy. Y'all have a great night.
Thanks
Thanks so
everyone.
much.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Have a good night.